All right, we are going to do the answer key for the practice test. And the first question says you're offered a job to paint all of the school this summer. So Mrs. Noble will pay you $8 an hour and give you a second locker for $50. So Mrs. Noble will give you $8 an hour and a second locker worth $50. And then it says Mr. Bullock will pay you $10 an hour and give you a second charger for your device worth $30. So Mr. Bullock will give you $10 an hour plus $30. So the question says if you work for Mrs. Noble, what would an equation look like to determine your summer based on how many hours you work? So your pay would be $8 times the hours plus 50, which is exactly what we wrote above. And then it says, for how many hours of work will your summer pay be less than $610? So I want to know when 8 hours plus 50 is less than $610. In order to solve this, you need to isolate the word hours. So the first step is to get rid of the 50. The 50 is alone. So we have 8 hours is less than 560. And then you need to get the word hours alone. So you're going to divide by 8. So the hours would be less. So that's for Mrs. Noble. If you also did Mr. Bullock, we can just kind of do that on the side here. It didn't say you had to, but you would do $10 an hour plus 30 would be less than 610. So $10 an hour, you'd have to subtract 30. So that would be less than 580. And then you would divide by 10. So the hours would be less than 58. All right, C says if you want to work 24 hours, write an equation to show your total summer earnings for each option. So for Mrs. Noble, you would do $8 times 24 plus 50. So you'd probably want a calculator to do 8 times 24, and that gives you 192. And 192 plus 50 is equal to 242. Okay, and then for Mr. Bullock, you would have $10 times 24 hours plus 30. So 240 plus 30 is 270. And then it says write and solve an inequality to find the number of hours worked where Mrs. Noble's job would be a better option. So the question is when is, 8 hours plus 50. So Mrs. Noble would be a better option. That means you would make more money than 10 hours plus 30. So you've got letters on both sides of the equations. I like my letters on the left. You could move the 8h to the right so that you don't have a negative, but just in case you did it this way, there's a little trick I want to make sure you understand. So we have negative 2h plus 50 is greater than 30. And then you want to get all your numbers to the opposite side. So subtract 50. So negative 2h is greater than negative 20. And then if you remember, whenever you multiply or divide by a negative, you have to flip the inequality. So that needs to flip. So h is less than 10. So if you work 10 hours or more, you will make more money in Mr. Bullock's job. If you work less than 10 hours, you would make more money with Mrs. Noble's job. All right. On to number 2. You're trying to earn some money and decide to sell organic smoothies at a roadside stand. It's going to be $2 for a fruit smoothie. So I'm going to write down $2 for fruit plus $3 for a green smoothie. So how much will you make if you sell 25 green ones? So that means you're doing $3 times 25 plus 18 fruit ones. So 2 times 18. So that would be 75 plus 38, 6, 8 times 2, 16. So 75 plus 36, 79, 10. It'd be if your goal is to make $600, write an equation to model this situation. So that would be 2 for the fruit plus 3 for the green equals $600. And then it says you have a total of 250 fruit and green smoothies. So write an equation for this. So the fruit smoothies plus the green smoothies would equal 250. And then it says graph both of these. So in order to graph, you want to put your equations in y equals mx plus b. Now, if we're going to consider, it doesn't matter which is which, but we can make the f our x and the g our y. It looks more like a y anyways. So you would need to write that x equals fruit and that y equals green. So then this one would be x plus y equals 250. So you want to isolate the y to put this in y equals mx plus b. So you would subtract 2x. So, okay, 3y would equal negative 2x plus 600. And then you would need to divide by 3. So y equals negative 2/3 x plus 200. So if you're going to make a table of that, you would have 0 giving you 200. And then this negative 2/3 is your rise over your run. So that means you go over 3 down 2. This is your y and this is your x. So as you go over 3, you're going down 2. So 3 would give you 198. So 6 would give you 196. So this is going to take quite some time. Let's go ahead and make a table for the second one. You would need to subtract x. So y equals negative x plus 250. So this time you're starting at 250. And as you go up 1, you're going down 1. So you could put these equations in a graphing calculator and look and see close to where they cross. That's one option. You could continue the table, and you also have to graph this. So we're going to make this fruit, and I guess you could go up by like, you're starting at 250, so If you make this your green, you're going to have to get to 250. So maybe you could go up by 25s. This would be 50. This would be 100. This would be 150, 200, 250. And you could go up by the same on this axis, especially since your slope is 1. Okay, so if we want to graph this bottom one, 0 gives 250. So I'll make this table over here. And then 25 would give 25 less, so it would be 225. And then 50 would give 200. And 75 would give 175. It would kind of go down, it would exactly go down like this. And then you would connect the dots because all the decimals work. Alright, the other equation, right here, 0 is 200. I'm going to write this equation right here. And then our graph, we went up by 25s. So 0, 200 is right here. So if we plug 25 in, we are going to get a decimal, but it would be negative 2/3 times 25 plus 200. So that'd be negative 50 divided by 3. So that's negative 16 2/3, or 16.6 repeating, plus 200. So that answer is 183 1/3. So 25 would give 183 1/3. And let's see if we can figure out 50. So 50, I'll do this in a different color. So negative 2/3 times 50 plus 200. So that'd be negative 100/3 plus 200. So if you put that in the calculator, it'd be negative 33 1/3 plus 200. So that would be 166.6 repeating, or 166 2/3. So 50 gives 166 2/3. Okay, let's try 75. So we're plugging 75 in for that x. So negative 2/3 times 75 plus 200. So 2 times 75 is 150, and 150 times 3 is 50. So we have negative 50 plus 200, so 75 gives 150. So this is 75 is 150. Alright, as you can see, it's getting closer and closer. So you can continue graphing this and use a straight edge and approximate where the crossing point is. Okay, I'm having a really tough time drawing a straight line. Or you can keep going up like this. It looks to me like it's at 125. So if I plug 125 in, you get negative 83 and a third, so that's not going to be the case. Let's try 150, because it's going to be a whole number that gives the answer. So negative 2 times 150 divided by 3 plus 200. So that would be negative 100 plus 200, which is 100. So 150, 100 is where it crosses, right there. Because this one is also 150, 50, 100. So the exact point is 150, 100. And it's 150 fruit and 100 green smoothies. So what do these points tell you about your money-making situation? 250 smoothies, like cups to fill, and if you want to make exactly $600, and as long as you're going to sell out, then you need to make 150 fruit smoothies and 100 green smoothies. Okay, moving right along. Oh, one last little thing. You need to make sure you have a title. And all of your labels, which you do. Okay. Y equals mx plus b. We want to get this y totally alone. The first thing you're going to move is the 7x. You're going to move that from both sides. So 14y equals negative 7x plus 56. Okay, now you still want to get this y alone. So you need to get rid of that 14. You're going to do that through division. What you do to one term, you have to do to every single term because you're multiplying or dividing. So y equals 7 over 14 is the same thing as negative 1/2, or it's also the same thing as 0.5. And 56 divided by 14 is the same thing as 4. Next up, that y wants to be alone. We're also super duper watching this minus. I would slash and dash and make it plus a negative. The first thing you're going to move is this 4x right here, and you would need to add that because it's a negative 4x. So negative 2y is equal to 4x plus 16. Now you're going to divide by that negative 2 to get the y totally alone. So y equals negative 2x plus negative 8. You could also have negative 2x minus 8. Okay, these are the same. I always just do plus and negative so I don't make a mistake. This y needs to get alone. Add 5x. You are undoing the order of operations. So 15y equals, that my plus moved over. Okay, so positive 5x minus 10. Now I'm going to make that minus plus a negative, and you're going to divide by 15 to get the y totally alone. So y equals 5 over 15 is the same thing as 1/3, and 10 over 15 is the same as 2/3, and it is negative. So since these are repeating decimals, you should try to leave it in a fraction form. All right, we're going to show where these intersect. The first one is set up for substitution. So this 4y, these x's are the same. So this 4y is going to go in for that x. So 7, and then instead of x, we are substituting 4y. That's that substitute teacher. It's in there instead of x. X is not there. And then you're writing the rest of this problem. So you have a 7 times a 4y. So this is 28y. These y's are on the same side of the equation, so you're just going to put them together. 28 plus 9, well 28 plus 10 is 38, so 28 plus 9 is 37. And then you need to get the y completely alone, so you're going to divide by 37. Now, your ordered pair solution, you need the x. So you're going to take this y and you're going to plug it back into one of the original problems. This one looks a heck of a lot easier to work with. So x equals 4 times 3. So x is 12. So your ordered pair solution is over 12 up 3. That's where these two lines cross. And the next one is set up for elimination because if you add these, the 5y's cancel. So you get 7x equals 14. You know it's set up for elimination because the x's line up, the y's line up. Okay, and then the numbers line up. I can't draw an arrow. So in order to solve this, you would divide both sides by 7, so x is 2. And then once you have your x, you need to go back in and solve for y. To me, the bottom one looks easier just because there's no minuses, so there's no chance in messing up a negative. 3, and then instead of x, you're substituting the 2, plus 5y equals 6. So 6 plus 5y equals 6, and then you are going to subtract 6. So 5y is 0, and then you are going to divide by 5 to get the numbers together. So y equals 0. 0 divided by anything is 0. So your ordered pair solution is 2, 0. And this one is also set up to eliminate, but the 2's are the same sign. So if you add, it does not eliminate, so this time you need to subtract the whole thing. So 2x minus 2x is nothing. Negative y minus 3y is a negative 4y. And 20 minus 16 is 4. If that is tricky, what you can do is make this a plus and change the sign of every term. So in order to isolate the y, you would divide by negative 4. So y is negative 1. You do need to plug that in. The top one looks easier, but it's very important. I'm going to write the whole problem out because of this minus. And I'm actually going to take the minus and slash and dash. So when you're plugging this negative 1 in, it's going right here. So let's go ahead and rewrite. So 2x plus negative, and that's where the negative 1 goes. Okay, and it like flew out of there. Equals 20. So right here, negative 1. That's 2x plus 1. So you would need to subtract 1. So 2x is 19. And then divide by 2. So x is and last but not least, solve by graphing. In order to graph, things need to be in y equals mx plus b. Lucky for us, the second one is. In fact, you can make a table for the second one right now if you want. 0 will always give you that because that's your b, your y-intercept, so I wrote b. That's 4. And then if you plug a 1 in, 1 plus 4 is 5. So 2 will give you 2 plus 4, which is 6. So as you go up by 1 in the x, you're going up by 1 in the y because your slope is 1. All right, this top equation, you need to move that 3x to the other side. So you should subtract 3x from both sides. Now instead of writing 12 minus 3x in that order, I'm going to write it in mx plus b. So y equals, and then the negative 3x would go first, and then the 12 would be positive going second. Holy moly, what's happening? Okay, we'll try this again. So, you're going to make a table. 0 is going to give you that number, which is 12. Every time you go up by 1, you're going down by 3. Your slope is negative 3. So 1 will give you 9. That's down by 3. 2 will give you 3 less than 9, which is 6. 3 will give you 3 less than 6, which is 3. 4 will give you 0. So, we're probably just going to need to count by ones, and there's no labels to the x and y, so we can just label this x and label this y. And then same on this side. And you can title this whatever you want. We could just title it Solving Systems. So I'm going to do this one first since I have my black pen selected. 0 gives 12. And then basically you're going over 1, down 3. 1 gives 9. Over 1, down 3. 2 gives 6. Over 1, down 3. 3 gives 3. Over 1, down 3. 4 gives 0. And you should connect this because the decimals do work. And then over here, we have 0 gives 4, 1 gives 5, 2 gives 6, there we go, that's our crosser, 3 gives 7, and 4 gives 8. And then you could keep going if you wanted. This is a slope of 1, so it's just going literally perfectly diagonal. Isn't that fantastically beautiful? So the intersection point needs to be labeled. So over 2 up 6. Oh my. All right, that is the pretest. I'm hoping that it makes total sense and you're feeling very confident about your test tomorrow.